We have with us our special guest, Dr. Manu Santanam, who's professor in the Building Technology and Construction Management Division at IIT Madras. He's also part of the Center of Excellence on Technologies for Low Carbon and Lean Construction there. Dr. Manu Santanam received his bachelor's degree in civil engineering from IIT Madras in 1994 and later pursued his master's and doctoral degrees at Purdue University in the USA. He joined IIT Madras in October 2001. His areas of expertise include construction materials, construction technology and concrete technology, non-destructive testing and characterization of construction materials. He is involved in research projects funded by government and private agencies and has published numerous papers and book chapters. He is a member of several professional associations and has received awards for his contributions, including the Young Engineer Award from the Indian National Academy of Engineering in 2008 and the Fosrock Award for Outstanding Concrete Technologist from the Indian Concrete Institute in 2018. Welcome, Dr. Manu Santanam. It's a pleasure having you with us today.
Thank you, Padma, and it's indeed a pleasure to be on this platform to talk about my experiences in concrete technology. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you so much, sir. To begin with, what would you say is the importance of low carbon and lean construction in the Indian context?
Now, everyone today is aware that India has made a very ambitious target of approaching net zero by 2070. Now, this net zero obviously means that we need to bring down carbon emissions from all the sectors of life. And it turns out that construction sector is the largest emitter in terms of CO2. And in construction sector, a lot of the CO2 gets emitted because of the kind of choices we make for the kind of construction materials that we use, the processes that we have, and the fact that many of these are sometimes not controlled well enough to minimize wastages. So if you look at a building, there's an embodied carbon in the building and there's operational carbon. A lot of scientific research today is done to minimize operational carbon, like air conditioning, efficient methods of cooling, heating, ventilation, and so on. However, not too much emphasis is given to the fact that the materials that we use already embody a lot of carbon dioxide in it. So the importance of low carbon comes from the fact that we need to identify streams of materials in construction that can be bringing in that low carbon feature. Also minimize the extent of wastage that happens in construction to reduce the overall extent of CO2 emissions from the wasted material also. Apart from this, there's obviously an opportunity to use techniques to utilize resources more efficiently and reduce wastage in terms of other resources, not just materials, but manpower, equipment, and so on, by optimal planning and so on. So that's the reason why we have chosen to go into this aspect of technologies for low carbon and lean construction, bringing together people who are experts in materials, management, and building science.
What do you see the challenges in the Indian context in terms of buy-in from the management, bringing all stakeholders on the same page on this? So how do you see the construction industry tackling this?
See, construction anywhere is a highly cost-sensitive industry. And what happens is the initial investment sometimes in putting together the set of solutions that are required to move ahead in a low carbon way, sometimes that may thwart or rather that may overcome the desire to actually go in with these kinds of solutions just because it's a little bit expensive to begin with. But what we have to realize is if we have to move towards this goal of producing construction or producing structures which have low embodied carbon, we need to start embracing these technologies. Now, very often in construction, putting in a new technology to work requires a lot of effort, not just in terms of demonstration technically and financially, but also in terms of how the market or commercial environment will actually take these new developments. One thing that really gets missed in a lot of the way that implementation is done is that the policy changes that need to be brought in to implement some of these strategies sometimes don't get completely connected with the technology well enough. So in other words, research gets done in academia and we try to put it forward to the industry without really looking at how we can influence policy with such kind of research. And that would enable the industry to adapt to these technologies much better rather than simply taking it as an example from us.
So can you cite an example with this in terms of policy facilitation?
So one specific example, of course, is the utilization of recycled concrete as an aggregate in new concrete. Now, the technology is fairly well established, although there is still not a very clear idea about what is the best possible processing technique to get these materials to be used in new concrete. Nevertheless, there is sufficient science to indicate that a fairly good amount of replacements of natural aggregate can be done with recycled concrete in all new concretes. However, the codal specifications do not really stress that this is an absolutely mandatory condition. They give you an option. Yeah, you can use recycled material, but then again, for a person who's going into construction, if natural materials available close by, they will not bother to use recycled material unless there is actually a policy that says, yes, you have to use at least 20-30%. Like in Singapore, that's what people are doing there. In Singapore, there are policies in place to say that for new construction, you need to utilize material that has already been demolished from older construction. So that will really go a long way in how these technologies are adopted in the industry.
Okay, great. Coming to digitization and construction 4.0, how do you see it panning out in India?
Yeah, so many technologies today are available in terms of visualization of the construction site, in terms of utilization of lean tools like the last planner, and then we have the building information modeling tools. Several of these can be integrated with the actual construction project to have a clear vision of how the construction is being done and where possible interventions are required to minimize the delays and minimize the wastage and so on and so forth. Apart from this, of course, there are other tools for construction like concrete 3D printing that can also prove to be quite advantageous in trying to put together concrete components that are difficult to make with conventional methods. So digitization has come to affect in a big way the manufacturing industry. And I think what we are trying to do is adopt the best practices from the manufacturing industry into construction to really push this forward. Now, again, the uptake of these technologies in the Indian industry may obviously be a little bit slow to begin with because there is definitely going to be some cost associated in the initial time period. But once I think people start getting used to the fact that this can really produce something of an advantage, I'm sure that it will take off in a big way. Even now, you might have seen even regular home builders have started coming out with these 3D visualizations of how the apartment would look like. They give you sometimes even a virtual reality type feel of walking inside your own apartment even before you go about and see a model home. So I think these technologies have a great application in construction, and definitely they will affect the way that construction is practiced in India in a big way.
Yes, in terms of the impact on cost efficiencies, in terms of the transparency and all that. So, I mean, how far are these being used in the large infrastructure projects?
In the infrastructure projects, obviously, the players who are doing the construction are big players. So they are aware of all these tools. They have obviously divisions in their offices which actually work on specifics of digitalization and utilization of such techniques in construction. They have sufficient background information available, and they also interact a lot with academia to help fine tune their processes. So our construction management group, for instance, is very much in touch with companies like L&T to get these BIM and building planning strategies properly utilized in their construction projects. Lean construction, for instance, is something that L&T is doing significantly, and a number of other companies are also gearing up to actually take this in a big way. So certainly, I think the Indian industry is well prepared. They just need to embrace it with open arms to really take this technology forward.
Okay, great. What would be the one thing that you would want for the construction industry from advanced economies? In terms of best practices, what would you want our industry to adopt?
There are a couple of things. One is, of course, the fact that the compensation for the kind of tradesmen that operate on construction sites in India, the compensation is really low as compared to an equivalent construction project elsewhere in the world. For instance, the people who are working with the reinforcement, the people who are the carpenters putting together the formwork and so on, they get paid very well in the countries abroad. For instance, if you are in the US or Europe, they are very well paid. Their trade is really respected a lot. Uh, Unfortunately, that is not something we see happening in a big way in India. The second aspect is we have to probably have some way to actually bring in a lot more of quality consciousness in our construction projects. We can't always rely on retrofitting after the construction has been completed to bring the quality up to speed. And very often, the decisions that we make initially reflect in the way that the quality of the building appears. For instance, if we use formwork, which is not of a good quality, very often the concrete surface does not have the right kind of finish, and you have to readjust it with plaster and so on and so forth. So all of those things we need to start avoiding and maybe bring in a little bit more quality consciousness in every member of the construction team.
Yeah, lean construction is also about that, planning and respecting people and bringing everybody together.
Exactly. So
Yeah,
it brings people together in different stages of the construction project, and that
yeah,
enables better communication. And as a result, mistakes are reduced to a large extent.
absolutely. What would be your message to the industry?
Uh, I feel the industry is obviously doing very well in terms of executing some amazing projects in the country. What they should look at is the focus should be on how science can be practiced well in the field. I see often that uh, the uh, the scientific concepts that need to be uh, applied in specific sites or in specific construction projects sometimes are overshadowed by adjustments that are done in the final moments. So I think what we have to do is find a way that we can directly adopt the correct scientific strategy and implement it on the field. And that will really go a long way in actually promising us much better quality construction. We don't want, last minute decisions on the site to uh, to show that, or rather, I should put it in a different way. We In Hindi, there's a term called jugaad. A lot of the construction sites, of course, that is also positive in some sense because we make something out of nothing. That probably is the right way to put it in a positive context. But what also
Yeah.
happens as a result is sometimes we are not practicing solid science in our construction project. So I would really like the industry to embrace science and adopt more of what has been learned in research and bring that to the front of most construction projects. I think that they have the wherewithal to do it. They just need to apply themselves a little bit more. That's all.
Okay, great. So that would actually call for some kind of engagement with industry leaders in terms of kind of educating them to not take shortcuts or do last minute decisions on the site.
Exactly. I think a lot more.
Some kind of
See
buy-in
again,
from the.
yeah. No, again, in terms of information, I think everybody has that, even in the industry. They sometimes the situations on site force them to take an
Yeah.
alternative solution, while they could really stick with the correct scientific solution to begin with. And I think they have to put science before other things that seem to govern the construction projects.
Okay. Thank you so much, Dr. Manu Santanam, for your rich insights. We look
Thank you.
forward to having you at the World of Concrete event in October at Mumbai. Thank
Thank
you
you. I look forward to
again
being
for
there.
your
Thank you.
time. Yeah, thank you so much. Bye.
Thank you so much. Bye.